Greetings. So, we are for a special episode for Indian Integrals. This is the first episode of Indian Integrals, and we have Mr. Amit Kashyap from Nirma University. We'll have a special discussion on the Companies Amendment Bill 2020, and Vijay Lakshmi and Arya will ask questions regarding the same. So, here we start the discussion. Arya, now you can go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, welcome, sir. Now it's upon you, Bijay Lakshmi. Please carry on the introduction, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I, Vijay Lakshmi Raju, Associate Editor of Legate by Internationalism, with Ms. Arya Kumari Sailendraja, Chief Operating Officer, Legate by Internationalism, welcome you all to our today's session. We have Professor Mr. Amit Kashyap from National Academy of Legal Studies and Research, Nalsa University, Hyderabad, with us as our honorable speaker of this session. Professor is an experienced faculty for corporate and financial laws. He is a startup consultant with a demonstrated working in the industry, premier law, schools, and business schools. Professor has specialized areas like security laws, corporate insolvency, merger and acquisition, international private law, and corporate governance, and so on. Professor is also skilled in corporate law and management. He's a strong professional with an MBA LLM focused on financial laws from National Law University, Jodhpur. We welcome you, sir, and over to you,
Yeah, just
Arya.
just to make one correction that I am from Institute of Law, Nirma University.
Okay,
So
sir.
yeah,
Okay, sir. Sorry for this inconvenience. And I really welcome. We are really happy, sir, having you in this honorable panel, and we are really happy with this discussion as well. Now we are going to discuss about the Companies Amendment Bill 2020, which was introduced in Lok Sabha by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, on March 17, 2020. And this bill seeks to amend the Companies Act 2013. So I request you, sir, to give a little brief about this Companies Amendment Bill, and then we will proceed for the question answer session. See, please, sir.
of course. Yeah. So before going to company's amendment bill, I would like to have a brief focus on what is ease of doing business and what is the relevance of ease of doing business for the country like India. So ease of doing business is basically a ranking framework which is given by World Bank to all the countries on the basis of certain parameters and categories. These parameters include like the ease of starting business, ease of resolving insolvency, ease of getting various permits like electricity, like land permits, and getting taxes settled, getting compliances done for the incorporation of the company, and getting permits for the doing business. Now, in these all categories, since 2014, Government of India has made tremendous initiatives to bring the ranking of the country up to a level of mark wherein India become a destination favorable for the investment. As you must have noticed that there are a lot of reforms which are going on in the financial sector as well as the corporate sector since 2014, and foremost are included like insolvency and bankruptcy code, Indian finance code which was in pipeline but could not come up, and so on. So in 2014, the ranking of the country was around 139 approximately, which has reached up to around 79 ranks further after the initiatives which has been taken by the government in last couple of years. And now the India's ranking is 63, which is very appreciable ranking, and we must appreciate the initiatives taken by the government of India for bringing the ease of doing business destination for the country. And the provisions of the Companies Act, the amendments which has been made by the Companies Act of 2013, as we know that 2013 Act was initiated by the previous government, but the huge initiatives which has been taken by the present government is appreciable and remarkable. So we go to understand about the company's amendment bill today, that is Amendment Bill 2020, and this amendment in the itself in the Companies Act is not a new phenomena, because every year amendment has been done and it was required. Like amendments were done in 2013, in 2017, and then in 2019. But why this 2020 amendment is very, very relevant for ease of doing business is the thing that we will be discussing today. So some of the amendments were also made in the Finance Act that are also appreciable. But the 2020 amendment was initiated by the government of India to bring ease of doing business, or we can say making the life of the corporates easy, and to make them do business without any hurdle, without any hassle, and to make it convenient for all those, at least those who are law abiding. So government thinks that why to make the law so stringent for those who abide the law, and and some of the corporations who are not doing business at that large scale, why to have the same kind of compliance for each and every kind of company? So basic purpose is to give a rational kind of a scenario and a level playing field for all the types of businesses, and to promote startups and to promote entrepreneurship in the country. And you also know that we are going through a world pandemic, that is COVID-19, and because of that also it has affected the economy. So this was a need of ours. So 2020 amendment, coupled with certain changes which has been made by the government of India, like companies fresh startup scheme, which has been newly given by the government for certain companies, those who have not been active or not been doing business because of this scenario for last 2 years. Now they can continue to do the business by payment of some fees, and by getting some relaxations, and because of certain delays that they could not file documents, so they can continue now the business. And now the 2020 amendment bill, which is basically, I will say, the need of RY. So in total, if we see the whole rationale of the government for the making this bill was the commitment of the government to create ease of doing business, and to provide a living atmosphere for the corporations, because corporations are the backbone of the economy. And this has been uh, taken up by the government, maybe left out by the previous government, that there should be an environment wherein the foreign companies and foreign investors should feel comfortable when they are coming to country to invest. They should not feel like, because the scenario of the country is very different if we compare with the scenario which is there in US and UK. They have single regulators. They're not required to go for number of compliances. But when we compare to India, we have number of regulators. So already we have a different kind of structure. And in the same structure, if you are not providing some convenient provisions to doing business, nobody will like to come and invest. So that is why it was required that if we want to boost up the economy, there is need of making changes in the Companies Act, and to keep the approach of compliance and self-regulatory, instead of making it stringent, instead of making it penal, instead of having the laws very, very cumbersome, and instead of having very technical kind of the structure, we need to have a simplicity in the law, so that the companies, those who can do the business by compliance, and certain things which could be settled by payment of a fees, and which could be changed. Like for example, if I'm doing business, I forgot to file annual financial statement, or because of some reason it has not been filed. So it's not like it could not be corrected. It could be corrected. So why to have a penal provision for certain things? So that is why the government thought of that we should be more humane. So this amendment bill, I will say, is more humane, And it is also looking into reducing the burden of different judicial authorities by making structural changes, and by dividing the labor of dispute resolution also. Like earlier, we have all the cases to be filed only in the NCLT, and NCLT is now being burdened by the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board also. It is also taking the cases of competition law. So it was required that we should shift certain cases which are there in the NCLT now to other regulatory bodies, maybe registrar of the companies, maybe regional director. So that is why this provision is also declogging, we can say, the criminal system in the country with respect to the corporations. So this is a result of the government approach toward the collective decision making, because all those changes which has been made by the companies amendment bill are not made only by the government intervention. It is reflection of representations which are made by industry chambers, by stakeholders, by various professors, by practitioners, and by legal fraternity, as well as by the ministry. So this approach is basically to have a balanced kind of atmosphere, wherein it could boost the global investment and business in the country for the domestic players. In total, if we see, there are around 72 changes which has been made in this legislation, and around 66 sections are there which has been amended. Uh, in brief, if we reflect on the company's amendment bill, for ease of doing business, I will not go in each and every section. So I will reflect only on my views as to ease of doing business. That ease of doing business means the atmosphere wherein the compliance will be making convenient business transactions, and also it will promote the investment to be made by the domestic as well as foreign players. These provisions are, first is decriminalization of corporate offenses, although it has been a very debatable topic. Second is CSR relief, because India is a country which has made corporate social responsibility compulsory after the Companies Act, and in 2017 they said that it has to be done compulsorily by all the companies which are coming under the net category of eligibility. And third is boosting foreign investment. So this bill is expecting to boost foreign investment, because I believe that the target of the government of India was to reach 50th ranking in the ease of doing business ranking framework, but they reached around 67. So I hope that by the insertion of these provisions, like more and more adjudicatory bodies like NCLT in the country, and we are expecting to have more NCLT or NCLAT also. There is only one NCLAT now. And also to give opportunity for the Indian corporations to list abroad without extra hassle. So these are certain changes I would like to reflect upon to understand how this company's amendment bill has made ease of doing business for the Indian corporations. Now, one point that I mentioned, it was decriminalization. Now, decriminalization understanding has to be reflected on. First is what is criminalization. So criminalization of the corporate offenses itself has been very debatable. Why to criminalize corporation? Corporation is a juristic person. There is no sense of putting a criminal liability on the corporations. So it was a debate. But yes, it is a settled position that for certain offenses, it is criminal for the corporations also, even in US and UK. In India, we also have a settled position in 2010 by Supreme Court in the case of Iridium India Telecom Limited versus Motorola, wherein it has been made very clear that corporations can be made held liable for the offenses. But it has been debatable, and it has been put on by the stakeholders that criminal intention of the juristic person is not there. Company is having a separate legal entity. Only in some limited kind of cases, the lifting of the corporate veil could be done, and criminal liability could be put on the person who are actually liable. but yes, it has been debatable. So that is why there are a lot of offenses which has been found by the Company Law Committee, which has been constituted in 2019 to amend the Companies Act, and all those offenses has been omitted. Some of the offenses has been uh, reduced with penalty. Some of the offenses has even eliminated the criminal punishment, and some has been restructured. So this has actually made a space for the corporation to do easily their business without any fear and without even any favor, because this amendment will also, I expect, to reduce corruption, because now for the delays and for all those things which are not very normal and which are very clerical in nature, companies will not be forced to negotiate with any authority. So this provision is a second phase which has been inserted in 2020. It is not a new things which has been done, because in 2019 this has been initiated, and a lot of offenses has been decriminalized. And but by this we have recategorized around 23 offenses. 66 compoundable offenses has been changed and has been modified, like offenses such as non-maintenance of company records. Now, if non-maintenance of company record is there, so it could be rectified. Why to punish a company for maintenance of company records, like non-issuance of statutory notice, non-compliance of disclosure obligations? If disclosure is not made by the company now, it could be done later. So you can put a fine or uh, some extra fees on the company, and then it could be done later. So it can be easily settled. So there was no requirement to continue with the kind of structure that we had earlier, and it's a vision of the government that has been reflected by changing those provisions. There are around 7 compoundable offenses which has been omitted, and they were non-compoundable. But it was required that they need to be omitted because of certain structural issues. Like, for example, if you're not complying with the order of the NCLT, so it could be already the provision is there that could be settled through the contempt of court power of the NCLT, which is already there with the NCLT. So for that, there is no requirement of provision under the Companies Act. And also there are certain non-compliances which with respect to the liquidator, like if you are not following the order of the liquidator. So for that we already have the provisions under the insolvency and bankruptcy code, so there was no required, so there was no required in the in the Companies Act, so that has been omitted. Further, it has reduced the penalty, at least for certain companies, which was very important, and that is startups, that is uh, producer companies, that is small company. Small company itself was a new concept which has been inserted in 2013 amendment, sorry, 2013 act. But it was required that we need to give a safer space for the small companies to continue to exist. So if we are making the same kind of provisions, because small companies are also private companies, only they are getting a small company status. So if you're not giving the provisions for the safety net for those small companies, they will not be able to exist. So that is why it was required that we should go for rationalization and reduction of the quantum of penalties, and also very less penalties for certain companies, because uh, it is not advisable that we should treat uh, unequals as equals. So that was the rationale of introducing, and also it will reduce the kind of litigation environment for the companies, because criminal cases are always time consuming. It takes a lot of time for the production of evidences and so on, and company itself is not having any mens rea, so it becomes very difficult for the cases to have criminalization for the corporations. Second point I would like to reflect on is the independent directors. Now, independent director is an institution which is also considered to be nowadays a backbone for the good governance. Corporate governance is already there, and we have number of regions. But independent director ensures good governance. But there was no incentivization for the independent director. the salary of the independent director was also not as comparable to the other director, but they have a great role to play. So they are doing almost everything nowadays. So that is why we have inserted the provision under section 197 that independent director, even in the case where the company is not having adequate profit, they will also be paid just like MD and whole-time directors, including the non-executive directors. So that is why this will boost up the involvement of the independent director, because incentive always boost. So this is also one of the welcome provision, and for it will create an atmosphere when companies will do business ethically. So the vision of the government is to promote ethical business. So to promote the ethical business, the change in the independent director's position is very appreciable. Next point I will address is with respect to the corporate governance. With respect to corporate governance, although not very big changes has been made, because already the government through the Securities and Exchange Board of India has the regulation that is called SEBI LODR, which was based on the Kotak panel committee report, and this is we can say the best work that has been done by the SEBI for the reforms in the corporate governance. So already we have a very good framework, but yet there were certain changes required for the corporate governance also. One is the change which is made for the NCDs, non-convertible debentures. If a non-convertible debenture, basically pure debenture. So if you are creating a debt and you are a public company, in that case, why you are supposed to go for listing? And even when you are a private company and you are issuing NCDs on stock exchange, you are required to be listed. So this change has been made that if you're a private company, you will not be required to go to for the listing. So without listing, you can issue debentures in stock exchange. Unlisted companies earlier were required to go for periodic financial result publication, and these companies were facing some problems. So nowadays, the company's amendment bill has made it very clear that all unlisted companies has to publish financial statements looking at certain scenarios which has happened earlier in the banking and financial institutions, like scams which has been happening for last couple of years. So section 129A has been proposed, which will come up very soon, and new guidelines and new rules will also come. So it's not very clear as to what kind of structure will be there. So looking at this scenario now, the large unlisted companies who have availed loans above a particular threshold limit, they are also required to go for publication of financial results periodically. So, and it's not clear as of now that what kind of large company, what would be the threshold for that. Rules will come and it will be decided. Next is the changes which has been made with respect to corporate social responsibility. As we know that corporate social responsibility was a need of our when 2013 amendment Companies Act was made, but at that time it was not made penal. Like there is no penalty for if you are not complying with the CSR. You are required to comply with CSR if you have a net worth of 500 crore rupees or turnover of 1,000 crore rupees. But if you are not doing it, there was no penalty. So 2017 amendment was there, which introduced that penalty will be imposed, and which was not very much appreciated. So now there was a high-level committee report constituted in 2019 to recommend certain provisions for the CSR scenario in India, and this has been taken in 2020 amendment. So now 2020 amendment says that they will not have a criminal liability for non-compliance of the CSR provisions, and there is a change which has been introduced by the CSR rules also. And companies which are having CSR obligation of around 50 lakh rupees, they are not required to constitute CSR committee. And you can also go for set off of your CSR investment. If you have made excess investment in 1 year, you can take the benefit of that investment in next year. So next year you are not required to go for the same amount of investment. So this scenario is a very welcome step. And also CSR rules recently, which has been introduced, says that if you have unspent money left over, which has not been spent, in that case, penalty will not be imposed. But that money you have to transfer it to the national funds, wherein national fund will be used by the government to be invested for certain good reasons. So this is also one of the welcome step, wherein it will increase a corporatization of the corporate social responsibility, because now every company which is taking assistance for the corporate social responsibility from the other companies and from the subsidiaries, now they will be corporately doing it, because it is promoting them to do corporate social responsibility in this way. And this will also promote a large kind of operations and businesses. For example, if you are investing in 1 year on a large scale corporate social responsibility project, next year you are not required to invest the same amount. So you can do a big CSR project in the 1 year. So that is one of the advantage. uh, the next point for ease of doing business scenario promotion in the country is reducing the burden of NCLT. As I discussed earlier, that NCLT are already facing a problem because of increase in the number of cases, and there is a provision under the Companies Act, that is section 410, which puts a cap on the power of the government, that we will have only 11 NCLT, and there is no power given under this section for the government to introduce extra NCLAT. So this has been done away with. Now we are expecting to have more NCLAT and more NCLT. So this will reduce the burden, and also the bill gives a power to registrar of the companies also to now settle the certain matters and certain disputes of the body corporates. And the number of offenses which has been there has been reduced, and they are transferred to different other adjudicatory authority. We call this mechanism called IAM, that is internal adjudicatory mechanism. This is a new concept which has been introduced for the settlement of certain disputes, wherein a regional director is empowered to settle the disputes of certain nature. So this is one of the welcome step, wherein the corporations will have ease. Now corporations are not only required to go to special courts. Uh, this amendment bill is empowering the local judicial magistrates also to settle the disputes as to the criminal cases and imposition of certain fines above 2 lakh rupees. The next category of reform which has been made by this amendment is access to foreign capital, because earlier we also have the provision of ADRs and GDRs and FCCBs, wherein companies can get the exposure of foreign capital, but it was not boosting us to promote Indian companies to go for to foreign listing. But 2020 amendment has tried to create atmosphere where more and more companies will be boosted to go for those kinds of investments. It says that there is no requirement of taking a lot of permissions for the foreign listing for certain categories of the companies. This will boost startups and fintechs and now technology companies to go for foreign listing without even listing in the domestic bourses. So this is an alternative way of raising capital, which has been given to the companies which have the nature of business wherein foreign capital could be attracted, like businesses which are in e-commerce, businesses which are in artificial intelligence, or which are in technology or in cryptocurrency. All those can approach the foreign capital for the investment. So and this is why this is very appreciable provision, is because this provision has been uh, in consonance with the other regulators like SEBI, like Ministry of Corporate Affairs, like Department of this Economic Affairs. They all have same kind of views as to provide this kind of scenario for the foreign listing, and I hope that this will make the dream true of the nation to become 5 trillion economy by 2024. The second category of the reform is the relaxations which are given to attract foreign investments. Now, in this category, this bill has introduced a structure wherein if you are investing in international financial service center like Gift City, which is a very promising project, is there in Gujarat, Gandhinagar. So if you are investing in this destination, you will not be required to go for certain compliances. And to promote the business, there are a lot of provisions of the Companies Act which will not be applicable to you, which are applicable to all the companies which invest in other destination in the same nation. So IFSC companies are given certain benefits, and they can issue global depository receipts. Even if you are an Indian company but you are investing in IFSC, you can directly issue global depository receipt without the application of Section 89, which says that you have to go for declaration of significant beneficial owners. And next reform that has been introduced is with respect to producer companies, because there was no provision in the Companies Act 2013 as to producer companies. So what we have done is we have taken the 1956 Act provisions which were there, which were still applicable for the producer companies, and now they have been mutatis mutandis taken and made applicable in the 2013 Act to give a structural framework for the producer companies. So producer companies are going to be also a promising option for the economic development, like because they are involved in agriculture, they are involved in the business of food manufacturing, food processing, and mostly these companies are present in South India. In North India, very less kind of businesses are there, producer company. But I hope that more and more producer companies we will see in North and Eastern zone as well. At last, I will like to say the changes which has been made for the non-banking financial companies. So there are a lot of exemptions from filing which is given to the non-banking financial companies. So for that, a provision has been added that companies like housing finance companies or NBFC, which are registered by, under the Reserve Bank of India Act. So they will be given certain exemptions or certain relaxations, but subject to the rules which will be made by the Reserve Bank of India. So as of now, Reserve Bank of India has not made those rules. But if you are taking uh, loans, giving loans or security, or doing all those transactions, so there was requirement that you have to go for filing of the resolution. So that may be exempted for those companies. So this will also reduce extra burden of filing of the documents. So overall, the approach of 2020 amendment bill is basically to introduce a compliance framework, a self-regulatory framework, and to reduce the extra burden or a fearsome atmosphere which was there because of a lot of category of offenses and lot of compliances which were supposed to be done in the earlier legislation. So with this, I will like to end, and I will invite questions if you have with respect to 2022. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Uh, the topics, the thing you have covered, that was really worthy. Sir, about the changes and offenses, I like to say that whatever I concluded from your opinion, that this bill makes three changes. Firstly, it removes the penalty for certain offenses. Secondly, it removes imprisonment in certain offenses. And thirdly, it reduces the amount of fine that payable in certain offenses. So, sir, my view is the bill overall removes the penalty and imprisonment in certain offences along with the reduction in the amount of fine. So, don't you think that the reduction of punishments and penalties can result in an increasing amount of offences? What is your view upon this point?
So it may not happen because this provision has been inserted after a lot of discussion and deliberations and reviews which has been given by the industry and stakeholders, because offenses will not increase, or non-compliance will not increase, because this is not an end. If you are doing some non-compliance on one date, so another date is there available to you. You can fulfill or you can comply with the requirements of the act on other date by payment of some fees. So the provisions are not saying that we will not punish the companies for certain offences which are fraudulent in nature, or a category of offences wherein settlement could not be done. So this bill is basically giving a scope wherein settlement could be done. So when the settlement could be done, or when by payment of the fees things could be settled, so why not? So this is my clear view that there are certain offences wherein fees or fine should be reduced because of the size of the company, like the reduction of the fees is and reduction of the fine is made only for small companies, startups. So if you are treating the startups, small companies, and fintech initiatives at same par, then they will not flourish. So we need to give the level playing field to those companies as well. So that is basically my.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I like to proceed to the second question. My second question is this company's amendment bill that extends special provisions for payment of remuneration to non-executive directors. Does this
Hmm.
extension it empower or increase the power and position of the independent directors? The independent direction, that is non-executive directors, as it enhances the productivity of such non-executive directors because of their increased remuneration. What is your view upon this?
So why this provision has been added with respect to the non-executive director? Because non-executive director, including the independent director. So because when independent director itself is contributing at same level, and even they are making the business more ethical because they are ensuring transparency, so their responsibility has been more. And last year the provision has been inserted that they will also be criminally liable. So when their liability is more, when their responsibility is more, so why not the payment also should be at par with the other directors, although they are not involved in the day-to-day execution of the business, but their involvement is equally important, and also important with respect to the shareholders transparency that has to be ensured by them. So they are the representatives of the stakeholders in the company. So they are basically representative in the board of directors. So they are making the board of director more accountable. So why not we should have the treatment for them? Because if they are not incentivized, and on the other hand they are penalized, so it will become very difficult for the independent director to play his role, and they will be reluctant even to involve in this role. So that is why this is a welcome step, I will say, that we have inserted the remuneration. This is not an extra remuneration. This is only just treating them equal. That when the company is not making profit and you are giving remuneration to the other directors, why not to the non-executive director as well as to the independent director?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, I like to proceed to the third question. In what ways the establishment of National Company Law Appellate Tribunal that is used? I mean, in what ways the establishment of the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal is of use? Please, sir.
So yeah, so national first we have to understand that we have National Company Law Tribunal for the settlement of the disputes which goes through the Companies Act, and also these disputes come from the Competition Act. Also, these disputes come from Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So already there were a lot of cases which were going on in the NCLT, and then they go to appeal for the NCLAT. So NCLAT is only there in Delhi. So now we have putting the burden from the criminal offences, and they are changed to the civil offences. So civil side is getting burdened. So that is why, and the powers of the NCLT and NCLAT are civil nature. So when the cases of NCLAT and NCLT are going to increase, the civil side is going to increase. So there is automatically a requirement that we should have one more NCLAT. So this is a prospective statement that a government will come up with another NCLAT, because NCLAT is having the same power just like a high court. So when we have number of high courts in different districts, why not NCLAT also in different districts? Because they are addressing one of the very important structure of the economy, that is the corporations, the disputes relating to the corporation. So that is why I believe that if one more NCLAT is there, or even I expect that at least in all the regions, in 4 regions basically there should be one NCLAT. So why the companies are required to go from always from northeast to Delhi, and from Jammu Kashmir always to Delhi? So there is a requirement that we should have it, because civil offences or civil kind of cases are going to increase more after the situation get normal.
Okay, sir. I got your point. Sir, here is my next question. Sir, we all know that power to enforce compromise or arrangement between a company and its creditors or members that has been transferred from commission to the court. So, what is your view upon that? That how time efficient will that be?
So basically, the objective of this kind of settlement is basically to promote a conducive environment for the settlement of disputes. So I believe that such a kind of scenario will reduce the burden of settlement of disputes and even the settlement of cases on one institution only. So there is a need of creating a balance. So this Companies Amendment Bill 2020 has created a balance by recategorization of various kinds of disputes and offences and civil penalties. So this balance has been maintained. So there is nothing like putting burden on one commission or putting extra burden on the adjudicatory authority. So it's a balance which has been created by channelizing different institutions. So some of the issues which were earlier settled by the NCLT, now they will be going to the internal adjudicatory mechanism, for which maybe some more bodies will be created, and sub bodies are already there, like adjudicatory officers in the form of registrar of the companies may be given the power. But yes, there is a need, I will say, for empowering them, or for restructuring the structure of a regional director when they are going to deal with all those cases. So restructuring is required, but distribution of the cases is good step.
Okay, sir. Now it's up to Vijay Lakshmi. Vijay Lakshmi, please continue.
Hello, sir. My question
Hello.
is, section after the amendment of section 287 clause A, in a case of disagreement or an agreement suffers from conflict of interest on the part of the board, directors, including the CEO, adversely affecting the rights of the members, the court may terminate or set aside or modify an agreement. Does that mean that the court has the absolute power regarding this issue?
Okay. So it's not about the absolute power with respect to the court in settlement of such kind of issues. It is basically on the basis of the nature of the case that has been there. So some of the cases require court intervention. For that, we cannot have any other option. So for that, I think that if the court intervention is there, it is fine.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. The requirement of having a common seal under section 23 has been abolished now. How can identification and branding be done now without a common seal?
Yeah, so that's also a good question. Like common seal has been done away with very lately. Like it's not been done by the 2020 amendment. So and it was done away after just after 2013 amendment, that there is no requirement because it's just a rubber stamp. So common seal is having no relevance in the technological world nowadays. When everything could be done with in the presence of a member or a director who is responsible to take an action, or if he is not there, that delegation of the power could also be done. So there is no requirement of having a common seal. So that is why it has been done away with. So I don't think that there is no requirement to have it or retain it, because it had actually lost its relevance, because now we have a lot of other officers like company secretary, chartered accountants, to look into the compliance of the legislation, whether it is done properly or not. So there was no requirement as such of a common seal. And even most of the transactions are done electronically nowadays. So there is no use of the common seal.
Okay, sir. So, what is the actual purpose of removal of section 23, which states about the requirement of having a common seal?
Yeah. So basically, that was found to be redundant. So there was a provision which was written in the act, that is requirement of a common seal, but it was found to be redundant. So there was no application as such of the provision. So practically, if you see, there is no requirement. That is why it was not advisable. Even it has been addressed by various stakeholders, that why to have a common seal when we have now most of the transactions electronically. So that is why there is no sense of keeping this provision.
Okay, sir. The provision in respect of quotas for persons with disabilities in public interest companies has been discontinued. How will the removal of this provision affect the disabled? What are your views, sir?
So I will reserve my views as to this. This is a policy matter which has been done. So I will not comment on this as to why and whether it is right or wrong. But yes, I will say that quotas in the commercial world are not advisable, because of the sense of the business. It requires different kind of capabilities for certain cases. So putting or imposing on the companies doesn't make any sense if you want to boost the economy. But yes, if when we talk about public sector, uh, it has been there for the promotion of some people, which required some support, social support by the government. So maybe if it is done away with because of certain reasons, that the public sector also is going through a lot of downturns. So it requires that they should also boost up without having any kind of reservations. So maybe this could be the reason, but I will not make any personal comment as to this.
Great. So now I request Arya to proceed.
Uh, okay, thank you, Vijayalakshmi. Now, sir, I have last two questions to ask. My question is about the direct listening in foreign jurisdiction. This amendment bill that empowers the central government to allow certain classes of public companies to list classes of securities in foreign jurisdictions. So, sir, my point is how this will be helpful, and what is your view and what is your comment upon this?
So I believe that this kind of provision basically is going to promote some companies which are involved in the businesses which are attractive to the foreign nationals, and this will promote India as a brand. We already have the provisions of going through alternative ways of raising fund, like ADRs. We have global depository receipts. We have foreign currency convertible bonds, but which has not been very successful. If you try to find out how many companies have taken the access to this route, you will find hardly few, maybe in counting. So it has been found that this provision of global access has not been very attractive. So this provision, which has been now relaxed in the 2020 amendment, I hope will boost companies to go and attract foreign investors through the issue of global depository receipts. And this bill also doesn't require these corporations to issue prospectus and to go for listing in the domestic first before going abroad. But this, of course, the rules has to come. There will be certain category of the company who will be allowed to go abroad, because no company is allowed to go abroad and go for listing without the Reserve Bank of India's intervention. So there must be some rules which will come, wherein they will find out that who are the companies which are eligible to go and invest there, because the companies which are making certain defaults, even though they are startups, so they will not be allowed because of their track records. So yes, it will promote India branding internationally.
Okay, sir. My next question is this bill empowers the central government to require classes of unlisted companies and to complete the audit or review of such deals. So, what do you think upon this? Like, how it is beneficial. And my last question is, overall, please conclude, sir, how this
Yeah.
company's amendment bill 2020 is beneficial to India and its economic system. This is all, sir. This is my last question as well. Please conclude, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So I believe that this will help basically because India is nowadays you have heard about Make in India and Startup India and there are a lot of other terms which has been there, Digital India and so on. So the objective of the government was basically to promote entrepreneurship, to invite more and more startups, to invite young minds to come and do business. So if they are given some relaxations, if these small companies or startups are given certain relaxations, certain opportunities, they are very very promising. And when these kind of businesses are promoted by the nation, so it will automatically will make Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is the motto which has been given recently by the government of India. So to promote the Atmanirbhar Bharat, that has been there as an objective of the government, this amendment bill is going to be a boon. So I believe that if all the changes which has been there has already been accepted, and when the new rules will come, will make more and more clarity as to the application of the provisions of this bill. This will automatically help new businesses and those businesses who were not doing well to go and regain the caliber that they were having lost because of a lot of compliances which were forcing them to shut down. So with this, I will say that with the reduced compliance, with the reduced stringent provisions for those corporations and basically for those people who are ethical and those who are doing business ethically, for them it will become very easy now. So automatically it will help the economy to gain the fuel of doing business.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. This session was really valuable sections, and we have touched so many important topics of the company's amendment bill. Now it's up to Abhivardhan for the vote of thanks. Abhivardhan, please continue.
Thank you, Arya. So we really thank Amit sir for his utmost presence. I think we really had a very informative session, and we hope to have more discussions in the future episodes of Indian Integrals. So thank you so much.
Thank you to your whole team, and I enjoyed a lot. And this was a very interesting platform wherein I was given the opportunity to share my views on very very contemporary topic. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you again, and it's our pleasure to having you in this board.